My name is Justine Cumbo. I work for Net Ministries Australia, and today I'm just going to share with you a little bit about my faith journey. I grew up in a big family. There were 5 kids in my family, and I'm the 4th. We went to church every single Sunday as a whole family, and we'd pray the rosary together as a family. And even though I might have been really distracted while we prayed it, my parents are also really great in the sense that they would encourage us to do a lot of outreach and charity sort of stuff as we were growing up. So we were really familiar with the faith. And for me, it was kind of just what we did as a family. I never thought it was a bad thing. I always thought it was a pretty good thing. But I suppose you could say it was never really personal. And so when it got to the time of life where you move into high school, I think I started to worry about a lot of things that I didn't worry about when I was younger. I started high school and I had one priority, and that was to fit in, to be like everybody else, and I didn't want to be different. And I started to care a lot about what other people would think of me. And by the time I got to high school, I was really worried that if anyone found out that I had a faith, or if anyone found out that I went to church, that they would think that I was weird or that I was just the church girl and that no one would really like me. And so from about the age of 12, I kind of hid that part of my life. I never spoke about it. I never shared with anyone about it. I didn't really speak up in my religion classes because I just didn't want anyone to think that I was different. So it's kind of living this double life where I'd go to school and just pretend to be like everybody else. I'd pretend to blend in and try really hard to be someone that I wasn't, I suppose. And then I'd go to church on the weekends. When I got to about the age of 16, my older sister Maria invited me to come along to this church retreat, this Catholic camp. And immediately I just thought, no way. There is no way that I'm going on this church camp. And if anyone finds out that I'm going on this church camp, that's just going to be the end of my social reputation. But it was school holidays, and she kind of challenged me a bit and said, well, you're not really doing anything else, and I know you're not, so you may as well just come along. And so I did. I was on this bus on the way to a church camp. I didn't know anyone but my sister, and I knew that there was going to be hundreds of people there. And so the bus arrived at this camp, and first and foremost, I stepped off the bus, and I think I immediately thought, like, where are all the old people? Like, isn't church just for old people? Because there were so many young people. There was people from high school, people who, were young adults at university. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, wow, like there are other young people who believe in God. This is interesting. And the whole weekend was filled with a whole heap of different things. I remember we were in small groups and we got to break open the topics that we were talking about with other young people who were similar to me, and it was incredible. And I also remember hearing a whole heap of talks, and they were speaking about God and about faith in a way that, I'd never heard before. They were saying things like God had a plan for my life, and that there was a purpose for my life, that He cared about me, and that He doesn't just want me to live a life that's like everybody else's, that He's interested in me. And I remember hearing these things and thinking to myself, like, why hasn't anyone ever told me this before? If this is true, I want it. But I also remember feeling a little bit scared. And I think I was a bit afraid because I knew that if I really believed this stuff, it meant that I was going to change. And I was really scared of what that might mean. Now, this whole camp and retreat culminated in the Saturday night prayer experience. And everyone was talking about this prayer experience, and I kind of had no idea what they were talking about. They were saying things like, the Holy Spirit is going to move in your life powerfully, be expectant. And I remember when people were saying that, I was like, sounds really freaky to me. Like, I'm not sure if I want this. Can I say no? But I remember looking around and everybody else seemed pretty okay with that idea. So I just pretended that I was okay with it too. So I was like, oh yeah. And so I remember the Saturday night came and we were all lined up outside of this big hall, and I could hear that there was some praise and worship music coming out of the hall, and I peered in and I could see that all the lights had been switched off and there was just candlelight around the room, and we were going to have adoration. And I just remember everyone around me being so excited but I felt like the beating of my heart was gonna pop out of my chest because I was just so nervous. So nervous because I knew something was gonna change that night. So we walked into the room and someone gave a talk, and I don't remember what they said because I was just so worried about what was gonna happen. I don't remember the songs that were sung, but I do remember that at one point they said, someone is gonna come around and they're just gonna pray with you. And that was a little bit different for me. I'd never had that experience before. And to be honest, I probably thought it was a little bit weird too, but everyone else was doing it, so I thought I'd just fake it till I could make it, and I went along with it. And so the night started, and all I remember praying, my one prayer, as I closed my eyes, was, Lord, if you're real, can I not be the first person that they pray with? And of course, I was the first person that they prayed with, and this beautiful woman just came up to me. And she just placed her hand on my shoulder and she just started to pray for me, just for me. That was an experience that I hadn't had before, and it wasn't weird like I thought it was gonna be, and it wasn't scary, but she just started to pray for me and for my intentions. And all I remember as she was praying for me is that I became completely overwhelmed with what felt like pins and needles, but like everywhere, all over my body, so intensely. And I remember I just started to cry. And I'm not much of a crier, but the floodgates opened and I started to cry and cry. And it wasn't because I was sad or that anything was wrong, but the only way I can explain what I was experiencing was that for the first time in my life, I was experiencing God's love in a most personal and tangible way. And I know it might sound a little bit odd, but I just distinctly remember feeling like the Lord spoke these words to me in that moment, that night, that He said to me, Justine, I see you, I know you, and you are enough. You know what? Those words were enough to change my life, and maybe not even change my life, completely transform my life. I walked away from that one moment, that one night, that one experience of God's love, a completely transformed person. And it's like something I'd never known that existed within me, a joy, a zeal for life, a truth opened up. You know, I didn't want to just keep pretending to be someone that I wasn't, or to just be like everybody else. After that camp, I wanted to be me. I wanted to live out of this joy. I wanted to live out of this place of God's love. And so I remember after the retreat was over, it's like a hunger had woken up inside of me, and I wanted more. So I started going to this youth group, and not only was it an incredible experience because of the people that I met there and the people who I journeyed with, who saw me for who I was and not for what I was wearing or not for what I could give them, but for who I was. But it was incredible because I was having these encounters with Jesus every week, every Friday night youth group, this encounter with Jesus again and again. I didn't just want to keep living it for myself, but I actually wanted to share it. And so I decided to serve a year of mission with the Net Ministries mission teams in Australia. And that really took my faith to the next level. I got to share the message of what God had done in my life, to preach the good news of what God had done in my life in a way that I never thought I could. So today, I just encourage you not to be afraid. I encourage you to be courageous and to be bold and to ask Jesus to be a bigger part of your life. No matter where you're at in your faith life, wherever you are right now, sitting on your couch, in a chair, wherever you are, to just invite Jesus to be a bigger part of your life. He is the one who knows you more than you know yourself. And He is the one who has a great plan, greater than anything you could ever imagine for yourself, in store for you.
A lot of talk in our church today about the new evangelisation, and we might ask, well, what's new about the new evangelisation? One thing that's new is that we're trying to renew the faith in people who should already be Catholic, should already be Christian. Individuals, families, communities, whole cultures that need to rediscover the gospel. And so what's new is that they're getting a new shot in the arm of faith, of evangelisation. Another thing that's new about it is the way that we do that, and the new media and groups like Shalom World TV are very important for bringing the gospel anew to our cultures, to our families, to each of us individually. And so I encourage all the viewers of Shalom World TV, and I encourage Shalom World TV themselves to keep up the good work, to keep watching this channel and to keep up the good work of presenting the Catholic faith to our world today.
Shalom World, God's own channel.